Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. This is the EFL betting show. A little bit later than usual on this Friday afternoon, but we've still got the show nonetheless. It is, of course, the FA Cup this weekend, but there's a full fixture list in the Sky Bet Championship, so lots to get stuck into. Of course, this is a gambling show, so please do gamble responsibly, 18 and over only. My name is Sam Rourke, and I'm joined by my colleagues Marcus and Billy this afternoon. Marcus, how are we this afternoon?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thankfully, I was able to get 3 out of 4 selections in on last week's show. Only my wild card selection missing out, so hoping to build on that going into this weekend.
Yeah, very strong show from Marcus last week, has to be said. And Billy, how are you this afternoon?
Doing well, thank you. Yeah, probably on the other side of things with Marcus. I'm looking at a shot of redemption here today.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. If you do like our bets, let us know in the comments, whether you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. We'd love to hear what bets you've got on this weekend as well. Please do let us know. But let's get straight into it. As we do every single week on the betting show, we pick 4 selections: a banker, an accumulator, a value bet, and a wildcard bet. So we're going to start off this week with the banker bet. Marcus, let's come to you first.
So usually for the banker, I like to go for something a little bit closer to even money. But this week, I've just decided to go for the most solid, most confident selection that I've got in my accumulator to come. And that is Fulham away at Peterborough United this weekend. I think this will probably be quite a common pick in people building their ACCAs this weekend. I just think it could be a bit of a mismatch potentially. Peterborough have picked up a little bit, clawing their way out of the relegation zone in recent weeks, but Fulham are in very intimidating form at the moment. Alexander Mitrovic probably going to break the Championship all-time record for most amount of goals in a season, with 19 already in just 16 league outings. So at odds of just 1 to 2 with Bet365, I think that's a suitable banker for this week. I think Fulham are flying, and they'll be hoping to close the gap on Bournemouth further still, with the Cherries, of course, having their first defeat of the season in midweek.
Yeah, obviously that result midweek for Fulham was quite scintillating stuff at Ewood Park. A massive result for Marco Silva's side. Billy, your banker's a little bit similar, isn't it?
It is very similar. In fact, it's the exact same. I've got Fulham to beat Peterborough again at 1 to 2 with Bet365, and there's not too much to add. Fulham are just ridiculously good at the moment. 20 goals in the last 5 games, conceding just 1. Obviously, 7-0 thrashing of Blackburn, and I know they went down to 10 men, but not many teams would ever do that to Blackburn again if they even started the game with 10 men. So it's in devastating form at the moment. I think they'll smell blood after Bournemouth's defeat. And as Marcus said, Mitrovic is well on his way to breaking that Championship record. And the rate he's going, he could even do that by Christmas. It's just frightening stuff at the moment from him. And the service he gets as well is just nothing short of incredible. Likes of Harry Wilson, Cabano. You've got Bobby Dicker Reed as well. And that's before you go onto the bench with Carvalho and Kenny coming back into things now as well. So really, really frightening prospect for Peterborough, who have been quite strong at home. But I don't think there's any question that Fulham should win this quite comfortably.
There we go. Marcus and Billy both going for a Fulham win, 1 to 2 at the moment with most bookmakers. If you're watching this show, what do you make of their banker? Do you agree with it? Is there anyone else you feel should be the banker of the weekend in the EFL? Right, let's get the accumulator bet next. Marcus, what is the accumulator you've chosen for this weekend?
So it's a threefold, as always, really. So you got Fulham as the first selection in that threefold. Then I've got 2 other teams to win, 2 home wins. So pretty simple bets this week in the accumulator. That's Millwall at home to Derby and West Bromwich Albion at home to Middlesbrough. To start with Millwall, I think they'll be pretty confident after the 1-0 win in midweek, and Derby coming off the back of a disappointing defeat at Barnsley. It'll be interesting to see how their confidence takes a hit, particularly, of course, with the horrible situation they're in the table. When you look at the numbers as well, Derby, it's not just the points deduction that has them where they are. They're rock bottom in the Championship on expected goals, by far and away the worst attacking side. and how much longer they can rely on Curtis Davis and Phil Jagielka to keep it sort of shored up in defence will remain to be seen. I think Millwall are definitely a team capable of competing for the playoffs for much of the campaign. They're only 1 point off at the moment, so they'll definitely smell blood and be hoping that maybe a victory can see them break into that top 6. And then the last one is West Brom Borough. I think Borough were a little bit fortunate with a run of games where they beat Barnsley, Peterborough and Cardiff 2-0, 3 games in a row, kind of took them away from looking over their shoulders, really. So I think the way they capitulated at Luton could possibly carry on. Got a few injuries at the moment. West Brom looking for their 5th straight home win in the league as well. Carlon Grant's on really good form. Callum Robinson came into good effect in midweek. So I think Valerian Ishmael's men can hopefully get over the line and complete the ACCA. It's Fulham, Millwall and West Brom, and that's just under 9-2.
Quite a good price there for 3 teams you would fancy to win there. Billy, let's get your accumulator then for the weekend.
So yeah, sticking with my first choice for the banker, I've got Fulham to win. Also got Barnsley to win, and that might come a bit of a shock considering how poor they've been in recent weeks. I know they sort of broke away beating Derby, and I think that could really spark something. I think even in their performances, that they weren't too bad going into their 7 successive losses. It wasn't the performance levels that were lacking. It was sort of the cutting edge factor, and I think that's going to be something that can be revitalized now that Shop has gone and the confidence is reignited, really. So I think that Barnsley have a very, very youthful and strong squad. I don't think they should be anywhere near where they are at the moment. And I think that whoever comes in, I'm pretty sure that they can help Barnsley get back into the sort of strong form that they shown last season. It's against a Hull side who have been really poor, in my opinion. Lack of cutting edge, 5 goals after the 4 they scored in the opening day, which is just very, very surprising given how they stormed League One last season. Defensively, they haven't been too bad. So Dijon Bernard and Jacob Greaves have been 2 solid performers, I think, but the lack of goals, the lack of creativity is something that hasn't helped them one little bit, and I think that's another reason why I think they'll go down at Barnsley. The third choice, is Bournemouth and Swansea, both teams to score. Bournemouth shown sort of how vulnerable they can be against Preston in stages. I don't think it's a massive cause for concern, but they're coming up against the Swansea side who, in my opinion, apart from the top 2, are the form team at the moment. Joel Pirro and Jamie Patterson scoring for fun, creating chances for fun. And I can see something similar panning out against Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth have seen both teams score in 6 out of their 8 home games. And similarly, Swansea have seen 6 out of 8 away from home. So I think the numbers add up, the form adds up. And that comes in at 5.18 to 1.
Stats certainly in your favour for that final bet in that accumulator. Very nice. What do you think of Marcus and Billy's accumulator? If you're watching this show, let us know in the comments. Right, let's get the value bet next. Marcus, have you found any value in the EFL this weekend?
I think so, yeah. Just finding a above evens price, and it's Ipswich minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap. They're at home to Oldham Athletic in the first round of the FA Cup. What this selection means, minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap, just means win by 2 or more goals. If they don't, we've lost. If they do, then we're in business. I just think Ipswich's squad and what Paul Cook's got at his disposal really suits the Tractor Boys to be able to go on more than one front this season. Cook spoke publicly about sort of his desire to have a decent cup run this season. I think it could be a big opportunity for him to try and keep the rest of his squad happy. There's a lot of high-profile players, a lot of big egos in his squad that are having to watch from the stands, sometimes not even getting on the bench. So it's a chance for them to perform and throw their hat into the ring in terms of getting some more game time in the league. Oldham Athletic, on the other hand, going to Portman Road, where Ipswich have been very strong this season, even better than on the road. And Oldham are only really concerned about staying in League Two this season. I think that has to be their main priority by a mile. Dylan Bahambula is their outstanding player, but if Ipswich can deal with him, I don't see them carrying too much of a threat. But this is mainly a play just based on Ipswich's squad depth. You know, Joe Pigott could come in for Macaulay Bonne here. Bond's had a great start to the season, but I'm not sure how much of a drop-off that is, Pigott scored 22 goals last season for Wimbledon and hasn't really had a look in. So there's plenty of players with a point to prove. And I think for them to win by 2 or more goals at above evens, 11-10, I think is a really nice price, particularly with how strong they've been at home this season, even despite the slow starts of the season. So I'm pretty happy to take that against a pretty poor Oldham side as well.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Like you say, Ipswich have got a lot of players that haven't been playing in League One that can really come to the fore in these cup competitions. Billy, let's get your value bet then for the EFL this weekend.
I've got Huddersfield to beat Cardiff at 21-10, purely based on Cardiff and what we've seen recently. They're probably the one side that haven't had that sort of turn in fortunes when their managers departed. I think with Cardiff as well, it's a big project for any manager to come in because they're a very one-dimensional side. We spoke about that even when they were winning at the start of the season. We spoke about them and sort of the threat of Giles to Moore, and is there really that much else within that squad? And set pieces as well is sort of the main threat that they've got, and I don't see that changing. Huddersfield have proven on the road to be quite tough to beat. Their game plan sort of revolves around limiting their opposition for a while and then sort of turning more expansive as the game goes on, and that's exactly what I see here, nullifying the threat from Huddersfield. And my thought process for this was going through each of the fixtures and thinking, what would I have the price at? And this was one that did not meet my valuation at all. I had Huddersfield as favourites, and I think at 21-10, that's a very good price.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think that's a very good price for a bet that could well come in. Once again, if you're watching this, let us know Marcus and Billy's value bet. Do you agree with it? Do you like it? Are you going to get on it this weekend? Of course, please do gamble responsibly. Right, let's look at the final selections next. We're now going to look at the wild card bet of the weekend. A little bit of an out there bet. Marcus, what have you gone for this weekend?
Well, I'm following on from where Billy's gone with his value bet. This is Cardiff-Huddersfield game again. I just think the market is showing too much respect to Cardiff purely because they've sacked their manager. I'm not a big believer in a new manager bounce, particularly. I think often it's just signs that performances were going to turn around at the end of an old manager's reign. The board end up sort of pulling the trigger, and then those performances do come round. Just in terms of variance, how it would probably naturally play out, even if that old manager was still in a job. So I think we're looking to capitalise on that this weekend. I've got Huddersfield minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap. Now, this is very similar to my Ipswich against Oldham selection, win by 2 or more goals. This has a little bit of insurance, even though it is a wild card bet. If Huddersfield only win the match by 1 goal, we'll get half our stake back, depending on whatever that is in the selection. That's at 6-1 with Unibet. I think Huddersfield quite suited to playing on the road. Got a lot of players that can hurt you in transition, like Sorba Thomas, Josh Karoma, Danel Sanani as well. Another club pushing towards the playoff places where Cardiff are. The pressure's mainly on them in terms of where they are in the relegation picture and compared to the expectations they had at the start of the season. So once again, as Billy identified, I think the market's got this one probably the wrong way round. And I think if you can get 6-1 with that little bit of insurance, Huddersfield to win by 2 or more for this one to come in, I'm very happy to take that. So that's minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap, 6-1 with Unibet.
There we go. Like that a lot. Billy, what is your wildcard bet of the weekend in the EFL?
I like my goal scorer bets, and I've gone down that route again. I've got Mitrovic, Brace, Adebayo, and Scott Hogan all to score. I think Mitrovic again goes without saying. The service, I've spoken a lot about the service, and he's a player that continues to get balls into the box. He's intelligent when the ball does come into the box, and as we know, he's got that finishing touch as well. And I think he would have scored a fair few more if he didn't get taken off quite early. It give Manice a little bit of a run out. And as you've seen, Manice getting into those positions that Mitrovic would have got in, and he grabs a brace himself. So I think that Mitrovic, he's one of those players you can't stop because he's so intelligent in the box. It's not just his physical presence. It's not just his reading of the game. It's everything about him that makes him such a strong performer. And if you've got the supply that Fulham do from every sort of avenue down the pitch, then I think that him to score brace is a good shout for this. Adebayo as well, another home game. He scored 7 out of his 8 goals at home. He's coming up against quite a youthful defence in Stoke. I know Sutar has been a very, very strong performer this season, but I think that Adebayo tends to play off the sort of the wider centre-backs when operating in a 3. And I think that he'll just have too much, and his ability at Kenilworth Road has been brilliant and there for all to see in recent weeks. And then Hogan as well. He's, I think there's the supply for him at the moment as well. Jordan Graham's come into the squad at Birmingham and has shown plenty of promise. He's a player that looks to play balls into the box a little bit earlier than most would expect. And I think Hogan is a gambler. He's a player that will get in front of his man and sometimes at the detriment of coming offside. But I think with Graham, he's developing that understanding. And then another avenue for him is how he scored his goal during the week, and that's playing off Deeney. If those two play together again, the ability that Deeney has, the intelligence he has, will probably work in a player like Hogan's favour, who will be, again, gambling on. That comes in at 33.1 to 1, a bit out there, but yeah, it's a wild card.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good odds there for 3 players you feel could certainly score on the weekend. Again, I like that a lot. If you do like Marcus and Billy's bets, let us know in the comments. Are you going to get involved with their selections this weekend? We'd love to know, of course. Please do gamble responsibly, 18 and over. Right, well, that concludes this week's episode of the EFL Betting Show. Marcus, Billy, thanks for joining me on this Friday afternoon. We've got one more show on FLW TV in an hour's time. We've got the EFL Weekend Preview Show hosted by Alfie Burns. Well worth a watch ahead of some really intriguing championship encounters this weekend. Once again, we've got an incredibly busy week on FLW TV next week. Lots of fan shows, lots of club shows, and lots of debates all on FLW TV. So please do get involved. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to FLW TV on YouTube. But once again, thanks for joining us this afternoon, and we'll see you next time.